I hear a lot about child labor laws and all those things as far as kids working off the farm and working on the farm and doing chores and how unfair that is and how kids in the cities don't have to do that, but kids on the farm have all these chores and everything. Let me ask this, how many of you did chores growing up on the farm? How many of you liked it? How many of you are proud of the fact that you did them? Okay, so why are our kids any different? Why do our kids not need to do chores? The fact is, if you're working out in the barn and your kids aren't working out there with you, when is it that you talk to them? How do dads and sons have relationships on a farm, working together? If they're not working together, when do they see each other? When do they talk to each other? How do they talk to each other? If daughters aren't there helping, same thing. How do you get to know each other if you're not working together? Because the best of my knowledge, most farms don't have that much downtime to where they can say, all right, today we'll just talk. Haven't seen one yet that did that, but. So how do we develop our bonds with our kids if they're not helping us? And every one of you enthusiastically raised their hand when I said, how many of you feel proud about the fact that you did chores? Every one of you. Now some of you said, did you do chores? I was like, yeah. But when I said, were you proud of the fact that you did them? You all raised your hand enthusiastically. Because how do you learn work ethic? Is work ethic a philosophy? If I said, work ethic is important, would that make you good workers? To the best of my knowledge, the only way to develop a work ethic is to work. And if we want our kids to have a good work ethic, then they need to work too. So this idea that somehow somebody is going to touch them on the forehead and they will become great workers is a bad one. It's not going to happen. So how do we do it? First of all, understand that chores and so on are a daily part of every farm, and everybody should be included, as it always has been. And you're not doing something bad to them. They hear from their classmates and so on how they didn't have to do this or they didn't have to do that. Well, good for them. They don't live on a farm. That's how a farm is run. And if it is a family farm, then everybody needs to be involved, don't they? How can it be a family farm if the whole family isn't doing something? So work ethic is created by work. The reason so many places like to hire people when they hear they were farmers is because they automatically assume they have a good work ethic, because how would they have been farmers if they didn't? So I see farms now where the 75-year-old dad milks twice a day and the son doesn't because he doesn't want to. And I actually worked with a farm a little while ago where the father gave his entire farm to his son, 200 cows, and I think 400 acres, about that. And after a year, he had to come back to the farm because the son hired out one milking a day and wouldn't work on the weekends. So dad had to move back to the farm to keep the farm going. Now, that's 40-hour-a-week jobs are not farm jobs, are they? When farmers start working, they usually identify, how much do I need to get done today? And if it takes them 6 hours, they're in la-la land and they get something else done. But if it takes them 12 hours, so be it, they just work longer. You know, if they were hoping for 10 and it's 12, they don't say, time to quit. And people understand that on farms. That is how they've always been. So let's talk a little bit about how then do you find time as a group, as a family. Now, it used to be Sunday. That was That was the key, and for a lot of people it still is. But now with everything that's going on, with all the sports activities and everything else that's going on, the wife working off the farm and so on, how do you find time to be together as a family? And the answer is, you stop saying, when I get caught up. Because I have never met a farmer in my life that said, yep, I'm caught up. Have you? Anybody know of a farmer that said, yeah, I got nothing to do. I'm good. So all of these promises about when we get caught up, we will be doing these things. Good luck. So remember, time scheduled, we can schedule time as a family just as well as time to do chores and time to do everything else. And if you don't think it's important, you'll find out how important it is later. Back in the day, nobody ever thought about that because everybody was automatically doing things together all the time. So it was never talked about. Well, now that's not the case anymore, and it needs to be talked about. Because if you don't, bad things happen. When we talk about communication, anybody in here think that men and women talk the same way? Huh? So, when we communicate and how we communicate, everybody always talks about what the person is saying. You know, listen to me. Are you listening? And the answer is always, I have something to say, instead of, yes, I'm listening. The most important part of communication is listening to what the other person has to say and making sure that it's fair. Now, fair means I have a right to my opinion, but you don't have to agree with it. Somehow we have gotten to this place where if I disagree, I have to fight you. I have to argue with you. Why? I can say, okay, that's your opinion. Here's my opinion. We're on two sides here. What do we do with that? Instead of, we're always going to be on these two different sides because we'll never come to a conclusion because you're wrong, I'm right. Being right and wrong in those conversations have nothing to do with anything. Men and women communicating is actually kind of humorous because when I do couples counseling, more often than not, if the husband has 4 PhDs and she struggled to get her GED, when they start talking about their emotions, the guy just slides in his chair further and further down, and she's talking like crazy about all the things that are wrong. What do you suppose that is? You think men don't have emotions? Why are the women saying, yes, they don't? We express ourselves differently, and men are never taught to talk about how they feel. Feeling is supposed to be a gentler sex concept. But if that's true, then how do we explain all the emotions that we go through? There's so many different kinds of things that we really don't understand, and some of them are really simple. One of the examples I like to use oftentimes is, all of you know what an introvert is and an extrovert? Yeah? Okay, let me show you something. Okay, now this is the absolute middle. Means you're not an introvert, you're not an extrovert, you're right in the middle someplace. Where would you put yourself?
Which way?
Okay, this is extrovert, this is introvert.
Probably more 20% towards the extrovert.
So you're You're right here. Extrovert. Okay. All right. How about you?
I don't know the difference.
Okay. An extrovert is somebody who loves to be around people all the time, loves to just.
I'm definitely on the way other side.
Okay. So, way other side. About a 20. That's way other side. All right. Where are you?
Maybe get a little bit on the left side of you.
So you're more of an extrovert, but not.
Don't go by here,
More-
John. I'll just be a little bit over.
Oh, over here.
Yeah, good enough.
Okay. All right.
I'll go to the 10% introvert, over there on the right.
Okay.
Yeah, right there. Probably at 40 there, right next to the middle.
Extrovert or introvert side? Introvert. Okay.
40, left side. On the left side, extrovert.
Take 30 on the extrovert side.
You can plug the dead center and switch it.
I think I can probably put you about here. Okay. How about you?
Like a 40 extrovert.
40. Okay.
Probably 30 introvert.
30
30 introvert, probably.
introvert. Okay.
I'm big time extrovert.
Say 50.
Dell is right in the middle. Okay. So, why is that important? You know, people always talk about introvert, you know. I guess the easiest way for me to help people identify whether they're an introvert or an extrovert is if you go to a party where you know everybody and you like everybody and you're not uncomfortable at all, and you have a good time, and then you come home and an extrovert says, I'm going to bed, and an introvert has to stay up and unwind for a while. So that's a good way for you to know whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. Okay? Now, why is that significant? Doesn't matter, right? Why is it significant? Because if I am here and I want to communicate with this person, we are not going to do well. Because we don't understand each other. Now, who did something wrong? Nobody. Who should something? Not the way it works. The best we can do, if we're that different, is say, we are really different. And knowing we're really different, we have to talk to each other in a way that says, I get it. I know that that's where you are. Not, by the way, I get it and I like that that's where you are, just that I know. So, if we have people who are in this area, which I think I described as Dell, why is that a good place to be? Because I can talk to this person pretty well, and I can talk to this person pretty well. Because I'm someplace close to the middle. And if I'm here, same thing. So all of these people can communicate pretty well with anybody. But if we're on extremes, much, much, much more difficult. So knowing that makes it a lot easier, because then when I'm talking to somebody that I know is truly an introvert, I'm not offended. Now, I worked with a couple a few years back, several years now. He was an incredible extrovert. He was a member of the Knights of Columbus. He was bowling, he golfed, he was on the Chamber of Commerce, and he was gone every night. And his wife was truly an introvert. And her belief was staying at home was the right place to be, and that was what a good person was, staying at home. So they had been married for about 7 years and had 3 kids. And he was never home, and his honest belief was that if I'm never home, it's for the betterment. I mean, I'm not at the bar. I mean, he could explain why he was gone, and they were good causes and so on, and why can't somebody golf every now and then? He works all day. And he saw himself as being the good guy. She saw him as, how could you possibly love me and never be home? How is that possible? And his belief was, I'm proving what a family man I am by being a member of these organizations that help the community. So he 100% believed that. They were on the verge of divorce when they came in, and the key to that was, one was an introvert, one was an extrovert. So the solution I gave them was he got to go out 3 nights a week. And when he came home, she would say, did you have fun? Blah, 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 all those things. He got to choose those 3 nights, never 4. And if he wanted to change it, it would be he'd have to drop something to have a 3rd night. Now, she had to be positive with him on those 3 nights that he would come home and be thankful that he was home those 4 nights. He, on the other hand, would have to do things with the kids, do things with the family, be part of that, and have his 3 nights out. So, were either one of them happy? No. Both of them were a whole lot happier, though, because happy for either one of them would have been stay home all the time or go all the time. So, once they understood that it wasn't that they were against each other, it was that they were simply different personalities, then they were more open to find solutions. Emotions are by far the most complex thing on the planet. There's nothing more complex than emotions, nothing. And we are always trying to simplify emotions. You know, how do you feel? Good. You know, how's your day? Okay. Everything is half words, 1 word. And the fact is, well, let me show you. This is what's called a flat affect. What that means is you're dead. You have no emotion whatsoever. You're dead. Okay. So here's the healthiest people in the world. This is the healthiest. Okay? Now, that means on a Monday, for absolutely no reason, I'm in a better mood than on Tuesday, for absolutely no reason. Now, every one of us goes through that. Every one of us. When we're in adolescence and we look in the mirror and we're going to a party, and on one Friday night we look and we say, yeah. And then the next Friday we look and we go, dear God. Why? Because we swing and we swing for no reason. Now that's healthy. All of you know what bipolar is? Okay. Here's what bipolars do. Okay? Now, why is that significant? Well, with bipolar people, I hear this all the time. Why don't they take their meds? You know, if they take their meds, they might not be able to, but they can do this. So why don't they take their meds? Why do you think they don't take their meds?
Because the highs are really high.
Exactly. You notice that this is our high, this is their high, and when they're on meds, they can't get up there. So they don't worry about this low. They're thinking, how come I never get up here? And if I stop taking my meds, I'll be able to do this. You know, this is oftentimes suicidal, but this is absolute bliss for no reason whatsoever. So that is why people have these mood swings and why it's so difficult for people to take meds. So, in talking about mood swings, now we have the normal emotions that go back and forth. How many of you feel that you feel very deeply? Easily hurt? I do, I am. Now, again, people who have shallow emotions are CEOs, big business owners, bankers. Because they don't get hurt. If you're in a relationship where you can hurt your spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend, but they can't hurt you, you have all the power in that house, all of it. Now, how that works is if I feel really deeply down here, then I'm more intuitive, I care more about what's going on in my life and the life of others. I have all of those positive things. And also, I feel like I'm an absolute wreck when anything goes wrong. Now, the fact is, the more sensitive you are, the more difficulty you will have with relationships. Because if you can get hurt and they can't, they have all the power. Gender has nothing to do with it. Nothing. So, when you're in relationships, when you're dating, when you're looking for someone, you're far better off having somebody that's somewhere in here with you, someplace close to you, relatively. Because it's a good thing to be able to hurt the other person and to be hurt yourself. Because then we can understand each other better and we can work through things better. If I don't know why that hurt you, it's pretty hard to go through that process. So understand that emotions have a whole lot to do with how our relationships go. And we look at the positive things of having those deep emotions, but there's just as many negatives as positives to having deep emotions.